26. We are starting with a masculine, feminine, non-binary energy update. We are going to get started right now on the headspace of masculine. I was literally about to pull the cards for masculine from the Smith-Waite Centennial deck. Literally flew out of the deck. They're all transverse. Give me one of them days, my friends. Okay, let's get to it. And there's 5 of them. There's 5 of them. Wonderful. A lot of energy in Aries right now. Let's get to it. Okay. You know, this is the thing. Okay, it's fine. We're gonna get through it. Okay, how do I do? Oh my goodness. And it's all transverse. It's all transverse. One thing at a time. Okay. And I gotta stress this. I actually don't mind seeing. I know this is going to sound a little bit wild. I don't mind seeing this type of energy when we have these many planets in Aries, because and I want to describe this as it's well fortified Aries energy. And what do I mean by well fortified Aries energy? There's often a misconception that Aries energy is pugnacious, right? There's a misconception of a lot of that experience by which there's that shake up energy, right? And the thing about it is Aries energy has never been like that, right? It's the misperception that we often have in the difference between warlike and warrior, right? And it's a continuation. Like, I'm just going to read, like, the overarching message is this is a culmination of the lesson between warlike and warrior energy, right? Because warlike is always looking for something to prove itself against, right? Warlike is always looking for something to feel strong against. And that's never been Aries energy. Aries energy Aries knows their strength, right? Aries energy is in the modality by which one understands the quality and condition by which one feels strong. And that experience, right? That demarcation as it relates to how it feels to be strong. You'll often notice that those who are strong, what do? They work on refining delicacy, right? Like, pay attention. The strongest energy in your life isn't trying to prove strength to you. They're trying to understand how to be delicate, because that experience, right? The thing is about it, and I like to describe this, Aries lessons are often working through the difficulty of heavy-handedness, right? Because when one is strong, one has a heavy hand. It's not something one tries to have. It's just something that one observes. And you'll often notice that those with Aries placements, as they maturate, will work into the space of becoming more energetically elegant with their strength. And elegance is effectively the space by which, right, we understand and we effectively move through things with I want to describe it as with a fluidity, right? And this is beautiful, because this is what we also like to talk about with the harmony that we find between the signs, right? That everyone has, right? Each stands beside them, and each has what the other needs desperately. So we have the modality by which we see that those with Aries placements are often seeking the energetic fluidity of Piscean energy, right? Piscean energy is often looking for what? The energetic fortification that one finds in Aries energy. So that ability of being able to effectively understand and identify, right? I understand and identify the elegance of approaches, as it were. This is a continuation of what we often see and experience in relationality to working through the understanding of the self. And that's what we see. I'm like, that's why I know that there's a lot of cards here, because I'm going to just read off the cards we have in the masculine, Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. But the fact that they're in transverse, they're all like, there's a lot of them, but they're all in transverse. Like that is what we're effectively seeing. Because, and I want to point this out, there are 5 planets that are currently in Aries right now. So we've got 5. This is effectively the energetic alignment point of those planets that are in Aries. And so what do we see? We can count them off, right? So we've got the Neptune energy that's working through the transverse of the 2 of Cups. We've got the Saturn energy, which is not surprising, and it's working through the 7 of Swords in its transverse. That's very Saturnine right there. We've got Venus, which is going through the 5. Look, do you see this? We've got 5 in the 5 spot. We got Venus that's working through the 5 of Wands in its transverse. And we've got Chiron here that's within King of Pentacles in its transverse. You know, we've also got Eris, and Eris is here with the Ace of Wands, right, in its transverse. So these are very powerful cards when you take them, right? When you take them comprehensively, because this is literally the articulation of what we talked about, that says the unification of strength is not one by which one is trying to transgress for past action, right? That when we're truly strong, we don't believe in recursive action, but rather we put our eyes forward, because when we put our eyes forward, we're able to move into energetically amending and making the future better, right? So there's something really beautiful about that, because I see, right, this is a lot of the energy of masculine that's moving, working into the context of regret, but moving regret into energetic betterment, right? It's hard work to do that, but it's most vital and important, because that is literally the sound of love being formed. Now, continuing, moving towards feminine, and for feminine today, I'm feeling tarot, actually Nouveau Tarot today. Yeah. 3 cards, please. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one feels most aligned to. There's only 3. Thank you, feminine. Much appreciated. Yeah, feminine. We've got the Ace of Pentacles in its reversal. We've got the 5 of Pentacles in its reversal, and we've got the 5 of Cups in its upright. Wow, there's a lot of 5 energy, man. And here's the thing about it. And I got to stress this, like, we got to talk about the 5 energy in the tarot, because the 5 energy in the tarot, energy in the tarot is often, let's just be honest, it's often a conflict card, right? It's a conflict card, but I got to point out, I don't mind seeing where these 5s are placed. I don't mind seeing where these 5s are placed, because these like a lot of this energy that we're identifying here, it feels very focused, right? It feels very focused upon the observation of what we're working to heal. And there's something really important about that, specifically and particularly as it relates, I just keep on seeing, as it relates to feminine energy, working with intention. And this is the thing you have to understand. And this is why comparison is so toxic, right? Because anything that moves us away from intention is anathema. Anything that moves us away from intention can often be seen as anathema. And the reason we say anything that can move us away from an intention is anathema is because, right, the modality by which, right, the difference, and this is a continuation of what we talk about with Aries lessons, right? What is a life trying to prove yourself against things, right? It's driven energy, but driven to what end? right? It's driven, like that's literally what you see, driven energy, but driven to what end? Because, and this is how I see the feminine is healing, understanding the poison that is put into feminine in navigating situations that make feminine feel like they have to effectively add up to things or energetically meet external expectations, because that's often the space that feels exhaustive, like driven, but driven to what end, right? Because if you're being driven by anything that's not purpose, then what's the point? But often we exist in a society that tries to tell feminine that their highest aspiration should be meeting others' approval. And you see how toxic that is? Because when you don't know what another person pins their approval to, then effectively being driven to what end? Because here's the funny thing about approval that you'll notice in trauma situations. It's like catch the approval. The approval's here, the approval's there, the approval's everywhere, right? It's like catch the dancing approval, right? And so the modality by which one is trying to like catch the approval, right? I got a little bit of a news flash for you. It's not built to be caught. Okay. If you are here today trying to capture the elusive approval, then I've got a little bit of bad news for you, my friends. I've got a little bit of bad news for you. The approval is elusive. It's evasive for a reason. It's very convenient that way, because when the approval is evasive, then you're being driven to what end, right? It's constantly in the space by which it always feels like it's a little energetically out of reach. But when you recognize that, right? And this is what Aries learns very quickly, right? This is why for Aries, like being able to embody the Aries lesson, Aries isn't competing with anybody. Aries is only competing with one person, and that is the person that they were yesterday. The only healthy thing there is to compete against. And that's not to say that there isn't something to be said for healthy competition, right? Healthy competition, you'll often notice, is the celebration of strength. It's almost like it's more of an exhibition, right? A healthy competition feels more like an exhibition because it's the energetic delight that we have in building into the context of strength, rather than the modality by which we often feel, right? We often feel the heaviness or leadenness of experiences that make us feel that we don't energetically add up. So this is a lot of the energy I feel like that's working through that. And so I feel like there's a lot of healing during this time and a lot of catharsis. And a lot of that catharsis that we observe is effectively the fortification of the energetic strength in recognizing the intentional elusiveness of the nature of approval. This brings us to non-binary energy. For non-binary energy right now, we're going to be using the Tarot of the Divine. 3 cards to clarify, please. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3. We've got here the Sun card in its reversal, the 2 of Swords in its reversal, and the 5 of Wands. Oh my God, there's so many 5 out. It's so many 5 cards today. Okay, it's fine. We've got double, and this is, we've got the 5 of Wands that is in the masculine headspace. So we've got a matching pair there in terms of what's going on in the non-binary. And we've also got, and I want to describe this too. A lot of the energy that we're effectively seeing in this space right now is working into the context of identifying and recognizing the ability to identify and recognize our own sense of energetic focus is what I keep on seeing. And the thing about this is, like, I keep on getting for a lot of this energy, never will you find more disapproval than when you're trying to find focus, right? Never will you meet more disapproval than when you're trying to find focus. Because what will you often hear as you're trying to find focus? Energy that tries to articulate that you're focusing on the wrong things, right? And that is and like, and I want to describe that this it's working into the context of those that desire one's energetic gaze. And I just keep on getting this, like, never when you're trying to find focus will you find disapproval from energy that wants you focusing on different things, because that is often the experience of being able to see the difference between intention and attention, right? The difference between intention and attention, which is effectively attenuated by the energetic observation of effectively working through things, but not just working through things, the observation and understanding in the ability to stay focused under situations that often feel the space by which, and I keep on hearing this, when you're trying to focus, pay attention, right? Because if you're in the modality by which you're trying to focus and others are trying to demand attention, right? As the understanding as to whether there is intention or attention attenuates to you everything you need to know as to whether another cares about you or whether they're trying to bring trauma to you, right? Because, and I want to point this out, often trauma comes to us cloaked in others' disapproval, right? The modality of trauma that comes cloaked in others' disapproval is often the articulation of working through, and you'll always notice this, the attention that feels nourishing, right? The attention we effectively put towards things that should nourish versus, right, the energy that often works through, and I keep on getting this, there's nothing nourishing in a trauma environment, right? There's nothing nourishing in a trauma environment in the space by which we understand the quality and condition by which the only nourishment you find in a trauma environment is having to eat another's disappointment, right? So the modality by which another person, like the space by which you ever, like you'll notice this, right? Like, don't move. I'm not done telling you how disappointed I am in you. Right? That is literally the meal you will have in a trauma environment, right? You can't, can you leave your seat now? No, I can't leave your seat. I'm not done expressing all of the ways that you are an energetic disappointment, right? The modality of working through the understanding of what it is that we energetically need to prove is articulated by others that attenuate what we do, right? And I like to point this out. When we care about each other, we give each other tools. And when we're trying to give each other trauma, we give each other disappointment. Continuing to get clarification, moving back into the heart space of masculine. 3 cards, please. 3 cards. We've got here, one moment, and we're going to be utilizing, the, yes, we're going to be utilizing the Tarot of the Divine. 3 cards, please. 3. We've got here the Page of Coins in its upright, the 3 of Coins in its upright, and the Knight of Cups in its upright. So what are we effectively seeing there in relationality to the heart space of masculine? I feel like what we're observing is working into the context of, I keep on getting holistic approaches as it relates to how we effectively heal. And the thing is, there's a lot of this coin energy in the heart space of masculine. And the thing that we see often I don't mind seeing this many coins in the heart space of masculine because, and especially with a Knight of Cups, because it often speaks towards, right? It often speaks towards the understanding that love is expressed by energetic effort, right? The modality by which, and we often talk about this, like when we like when we say more than words, we mean it's really easy, right? It's really easy to articulate through the breath the things we care about, right? It's very easy to attenuate our care via breath. Effort, effort, effort is the application of love into tangibility, right? Effort is the application of love into tangibility. So our observation of being able to apply energetic love or effort towards things effectively attenuates into what it is that we ourselves care about. So I keep on seeing that for a lot of the energy there, that that attenuation point or that modality by which another is, and I like to point this out for the energy of the masculine that's working to heal, right? It's the observation that says, right, like love isn't, you can't just articulate upon love in words, right? Love is energetically defined by action, but not just action. The ability to effectively love one another by being energetically mindful of one another's wishes, right? Because this is a lot of the masculine that's healing between the difference of the fact that often trauma comes towards counterpart in the act of a grand gesture, right? A grand gesture to whom? Right? The modality or the experience by which another tries to articulate a grand gesture, if it's not a grand gesture that another hopes to receive, then that's often the modality by which we effectively receive trauma towards it. Because it's the combination, right? When you understand the nature of love, it's not just enough to have a grand gesture. Because often, right, often the ego delights in delivering things not that another person needs, but that we ourselves hope to receive. So the modality by which we attenuate what a grand gesture is a modality by which we pay attention to the energetic needs of those that are surrounding us, right? And then we are energetically, there's no grander gesture than making sure another's energetic needs are met. Because in the modality by which we do so, that is us effectively attenuating a grand gesture is being mindful of another's wishes, right? And the modality by which we're energetically mindful of another's wishes simultaneously with the ability of bringing a grand gesture towards it allows what we understand as a heartfelt offering. Because what is the difference between a grand gesture and a heartfelt offering? A grand gesture is often something that another person is very deep in their headspace upon, feeling that they're giving to another that another person never asked for, desired, or wanted to receive, right? The trauma that we often experience in another's grand gesture, and then the trauma that they experience because we don't receive it in the way that they anticipated, because why would we? Because it's not something that they were doing for another. They were doing it for themselves. They were effectively, again, the ego likes to give the gift of, right? The ego likes to give the gift of what the ego would like to receive rather than what would be effectively necessary or needed by another, right? While a heartfelt, right, a heartfelt offering is the observation and attention that we energetically pay towards each other's intentions, that we then are effectively able to provide via being mindful of one another's wishes. That brings us to the heart space of the feminine. 3 cards for feminine, please. Let's see. And we're going to be utilizing for feminine right now the Smith-Waite Centennial deck for the heart space. Yep, they're right here. 1, 2, and one more, please. We've got here the Ace of Swords in its reversal. Double aces right now in feminine, both reversed. The Two of Pentacles in its upright, as well as the Queen of Wands in its upright. That's some heavy energy. That's some heavy energy in the heart space of feminine right now. But let's get into it, because the thing that we're effectively identifying there, and I want to describe, and again, if you're a tarot nerd, go ahead and look at the spread today, because we've got, I need to point out, we got an Ace of Pentacles in its reversal with an Ace of Swords in its reversal. And this is literally in combination, like this is the same message that we see in the masculine spread, which is basically the feminine is absolutely exhausted by receiving grand gestures instead of heartfelt offerings, right? Because here's the thing about it. A grand gesture, right? A grand gesture often feels like someone bequeathing us something energetically unnecessary, right? A grand gesture often feels like another person bequeathing us something that is energetically unnecessary, because it's the modality by which another person expresses the import that they themselves hold towards something, rather than the observation of what we tangibly need. So the modality by which we often work through this is a lot of the feminine energy that is working to heal from trauma in this way, right? The modality by which another person tries to articulate a gift that isn't a gift to the self, it's a gift for them. It's just a gift for them. It's like, here you go. And so those modalities and experiences by which we work through that, right? It's painful, right? Because it's painful because this is often, right? I feel like this is often the feminine that feels that they have to energetically weigh, like they have to perpetually feel like they're weighing the energetic intentions of those that are perpetually around them, right? Because here's the thing about it that's hard for feminine. Trauma always dictates a need for excessive wariness, right? Trauma always dictates a need for excessive wariness, because in a trauma space, good reason, right? In a trauma space, good reason to be wary. Like when you're in a trauma space, you have to be literally aware every single moment. Like what minute, because the minute your guard goes down, boom, trauma, right? But the modality by which we work through, and this is the hard part about it, right? When we don't heal from our awareness from trauma, we become the source of trauma, right? When we don't heal from our wariness from trauma, we then become the source of trauma. That is the trauma that perpetuates in the modality by which we say to somebody, you can't trust anybody, right? You can't trust, don't trust anybody, right? Like that's trauma being passed down, right? There you go, there it is. Look, there it is. I'm trying to help you. I'm giving you a gift, okay? It's a weird gift. Where'd you get that gift from, buddy? Where'd you get that gift from? So that observation, right? Like that in itself is what often feels like it can be energetically debilitating to the feminine, because it's working through the observation of a reasonable gift that becomes profoundly unreasonable depending on the environment that you have it in, right? Like that wariness, right? When you're in a trauma environment, that wariness is like, great. It's like you need that. But then the same thing that you need to survive, right? The thing that effectively shields you in a trauma environment, now the shields become a knife, right? That's what happens as we effectively work to heal. And this is why we have to do the work to effectively let go, right? Let go of the same things that were required in order to effectively work through the experiences of the past, right? It's the hardest thing to do, and we often see this when we have a lot of, it's like I keep on hearing, like often when we're going through a lot of energy that's in Aries, it talks about the painful, it's like the cruelty of trauma, which means half the time you need to create parts of yourself that you wish that you didn't in order to survive it. And then you spend, once you're free of it, you spend the rest of your existence trying to shed those same things that you needed to create in order to protect the self, right? It's unfair. But often recognizing the unfairness of it is how we begin to heal. Continuing to get clarification, moving towards non-binary energy. 3 cards to clarify. We've got here. We're going to be utilizing for the heart space of non-binary the Tarot Nouveau Tarot. 1, 2, 3. All right, we've got 10. We got a lot of, got 10 of Wands energy. I feel like that 10 of Wands keeps popping up in the non-binary space. 4 of Pentacles in its reversal as well. As well as the Moon card in its reversal. I don't mind seeing these cards right now, because this is the energy that articulates there's nothing more beautiful than vulnerability as choice, right? And this is often I feel like this is often energy that understands and recognizes the value and significance of what do we mean by vulnerability as choice, which is often the modality by which we understand the cruelty of others that have not healed from their trauma environments. But that's why we choose to energetically love regardless, right? The modality of love that we bring to things is often articulated by the fact that how another person chooses to carry love is their business, it's not ours, right? That's often the shape of it. And you just have to understand that, right? Because the modality by which you allow your guard to be up is the modality by which you allow trauma to win, right? There's nothing sadder in all experience than the modality of closing our own heart spaces due to the observation, right? Even as, and this is a hard part about it, it's hard to keep them open, right? It's hard to keep them open when you understand that even in the space by which you're trying to energetically heal, often you'll have 2 different modalities that come towards you in that fashion. You'll have those that are effectively not ready to let go of the same things that they needed in a trauma space and inadvertently hurt those that they come into energetic contact with, and simultaneously potentially working through the modality of those who have, and unfortunately it's just the truth, those who have malintentions, who have strayed off of their own path of purpose, that build more into approval, right? I told you, more into chasing the ineffable approval rather than moving with the jurisdiction of one's own conscience, which is effectively articulated in the space of understanding the modality by which that moves. But the modality is, and this is what we understand, this is what we talk about with love, it doesn't matter what another person's doing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how another person chooses to use the modality of the love that they experience, but one's ability to observe and absorb it tells you everything you need as it relates to one's own sense of healthy energetic direction. And it's devastating, right? It's painful. It's painful when we observe that, because we recognize simultaneously not only, right, not only the pain that we experience in experiencing it, but also we feel the pain that allows another to feel that they themselves have to endure an experience in that way, right? Because what happens is once you heal, you know the truth, which is it doesn't have to be like that, right? It doesn't have to be like that. But when someone is in the grip of their trauma, right? What does trauma say? This is not personal. It's just the way it is, right? Because it's the modality by which another person holds on to their trauma so tightly, they don't realize it's cutting them more than it's cutting anyone else around them. Continuing to get clarification, moving back into the unconscious space And we're going to be reading, we'll be utilizing for the non-unconscious of masculine. Hold on a moment. Unconscious of masculine, we are going to be reading, we'll be utilizing the Tarot, Nouveau Tarot. 3 cards, please. Woo! Oh wow, these came out fast, and they're all beneath the page of coins. So we're going to read them the way they came out. So, and that's cantilevered, 3 of cups, an 8 of pentacles, and a 4 of cups in its upright. So what we effectively see for a lot of that energy is the observation of working through, I keep on, the observation of working through the capacity or the experience of what we energetically look forward to is what I keep on seeing. Because when you understand, right? When you understand a manifestation goal, then the ability of working through a healthy manifestation goal is one that can be mutually shared. We talk about this a lot, but even and this is what we keep on getting, the thing about a gesture, right? The difference between an offering and a gesture is that a gesture is something that we effectively, and I like to point this out, like it is something that is for the self, right? That's more from an observational aspect, right? It's a display, right? An offering is something that we give forth from. And so I feel like there's something in relationality to that, which is understanding, right? The difference between and I feel like this is hard for a lot of the masculine that are working to heal. The ability to perceive the difference between gestures and offerings, which is, it's very easy, right? It's very easy to articulate upon how one feels, putting the point of activation towards it, right? Like the activation makes it an offering. It's the performative point versus the activation point. And so I feel like we see something there that's very energetically important, because the observation of, right, the observation of effectively absorbing or giving forth. And I like to point out, gestures are someone articulating the fact that they're well absorbed. Gestures are observations of others who are well absorbed. When one is well absorbed, it's easy to gesture because you have a full understanding of something that's going on. But offering is being able to apply energy towards doing something differently, right? Observation, effort is the space by which it becomes, right? Our words become offering. So we see that this is a lot of the energy that is either attenuating. I've got 3 different modalities happening right now in masculine. Either looking back at a past version of self and being like, oh Lord, that was a lot of gesturing, right? Like that was a lot of gesturing. Which often happens. If you're having that moment, welcome, hello, like, oh, how you doing? That's a good thing, right? If you're looking back at the past self and you got notes, that means that you're learning something. Great, okay, welcome. But or this is energy that's literally seeing that in other masculine energy, and they're seeing it as detestable, right? Because once one sees it, it becomes detestable between the modality by which one articulates but isn't actively moving towards something, or this is the energy that's working to integrate, right? Trying to get better, which is what we are always doing all the time, right? It's never that we're perfect, but the modality by which we're working on it is usually calibrating how well we're doing in terms of it. And that's why we see, and again, I feel like the only thing about this with all of these unconscious cards, like that are coming through, on the first spot of the masculine. Don't be too hard on yourself, right? Be hard on how you're working to change something, but not hard on the self, is what I keep on seeing. Okay, that's important. Feminine energy. Feminine energy, we've got 3 cards, please. And we're going to be utilizing the Tarot of the Divine. 2, 3. We've got here the 4 of Cups. Wow. Okay, so we've got a lot of 4 of Cups energy coming out today, because this is, look at, I just want to show you this. We've got a 4 of Cups here and a 4 of Cups here. So a lot of 4 of Cups, both for masculine and feminine. 4 of Cups, 5 of Cups, and Ace of Coins. There is literally, and again, if you're a tarot nerd, go look at today's spread. We got 3 aces in the feminine energy. 2 Ace of Coins. 1 reversed, the one under unconscious is upright. This is a lot of the feminine energy, same modality that I'm seeing there. This is feminine energy working to energetically heal by forgiving themselves for the modalities or the experiences by which they were chasing the elusive approval, right? Follow the bouncing ball, right? Like follow the elusivity, follow the elusive approval that is everywhere except where you yourself are standing, right? It's the modality by which we work to understand. And when we understand that, when we understand the quality and condition of trauma spaces that often articulate, that speak upon following the elusive approval, then we don't do things for approval beyond one person and one person only, which is the person we have to look at in the mirror each day, right? The person that we have to see there, which effectively shows us, right? That is the approval, right? That is the approval that truly counts, because that is the energetic shape of our own heart space. So that modality or the work that we do, right? Sometimes it feels energetically thankless. But again, we don't do things. We don't do things in the modality, right? We don't do things in the modality of what is energetically thankful to others. We do it with the perpetual gratitude that we have in terms of what we want to energetically give back to ourselves. And that doesn't have to be selfish, because when we understand the nature of care, right? You are everyone around you, right? You are how you treat the lowest of you. And so when you recognize that, then you don't feel energetically proud if there's experiences by which, and you work to heal from modalities comparison, but you also work to forgive yourself for being in a society that perpetually made you feel like you had to hold that standard outside of yourself in the space that feels like it's ever elusive, because it's very convenient to notice a standard that is elusive, because 9 times out of 10, that is trauma in disguise. Bottom of the deck for the non-binary, or the unconscious of the non-binary right now. Again, we'll be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck. 3 cards, please. 1, 2, 3. We've got here the 10 of, we've got a lot of 10 energy here. 10 of Swords and it's upright. 6 of Wands in its upright. And the Hangman in its upright. Okay, okay. there's like buoyancy right now with a lot of this non-binary energy in relationality to the unconscious. And I need to point this out. This buoyancy that we're effectively seeing here. I feel like the buoyancy that we're effectively seeing here has a lot to do, I feel like it has a lot to do with the observation of what it means, right? Like what it means, like this is the gift that we give to each other, right? I feel like this is a lot of energy that articulated the fact that they shed dread long ago. right? And what is dread? What is dread? dread is dread is the fear of not knowing, right? But here's the thing about it, and this is what this energy understands. As you're healing, you will feel dread because you have to understand if you're used to trauma, right? Then you're going to have to move through dread to get out of trauma, right? It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel weird because when you shed trauma, then you're moving away from anything that feels, right? The nice thing about trauma is at least the trauma is predictable, right? The unwavering stability of the painful known versus the unrecognizable unknown, right? And this is why it's so hard to move away from trauma environments because, right, what is trauma often doing? Instilling fear. What is trauma often doing? Instilling fear of the unknown, right? And when we understand that dread is effectively the unknown like fence around our trauma environments, then our modality of effectively working through, right, working through our own dread, it's not to say, right, I keep on seeing like dread, like this is the energy, that's why I keep on hearing this energy that said I shed dread long ago, or else I'd still be in that trauma environment. Is what I keep on seeing. It's the energy that says that it's not about, right, our ability of healing. And this is what we talk about with shadow work. This is why we talk about the fact that in order to heal, you better get comfortable with dread, because if you're experiencing something that's awful, at least the awful is familiar. And the fear of the unknown is what you have to overcome to be able to move out of the trauma environment. And as you move and as you grow and as you heal, right, happy's going to feel weird. Happy's going to feel weird. Stable is gonna feel suspicious. It's gonna feel a little sus. Okay, it's gonna feel a little sus. Here you are, used to all that trauma. What's that? Joy seems suspicious. Seems suspicious, right? And it's working through, right? It's working through that energetic suspicion that allows us to be able to heal from the superstition of the trauma, right? Then what is the superstition of the trauma? You better watch out for that. No, don't look at that. Nope, 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 nope. Right? That's what trauma does. Ooh, trauma. Just come here, right? And as we heal, what do we often say? Right? We start to forgive ourselves for the spaces that made us not trust in the first place. Right? We start to forgive ourselves for the spaces that made us, and here's the thing about it, understanding even in the modality of healing it, that some of that trauma applied to us was even, right? And this is the hard part about it. Some of that trauma was often well intentioned, right? It's not about an understanding and recognizing the trauma, right? That even well, like often the trauma we experience can be well intentioned, is how we continue to heal as well. Because that is the space by which we're energetically mindful of each other's intentions. Bottom of the deck on this reading, masculine, we're going to be using Tarot of the Divine. Ace of Cups, man, there are so many aces in this spread. I feel like this is like, I think that I feel like this is a lot of the masculine energy working through. I keep on hearing just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, is all I keep on hearing. And this is what we talk about as it relates to building into a space of energetic gratitude, right? The modality of gratitude isn't a manifestation goal, is not about fulfilling curiosity, right? That we have to be like, when we're working towards a manifestation goal, we have to bring a healthy sense of curiosity to things, but not, I keep on hearing, not be obsessed with curiosity. Because the difference between having a healthy curiosity as one moves towards an intentional manifestation goal is finding it curious what you find within yourself that you didn't expect to see as you're moving towards it, rather than the energy that often moves around, not so much in the modality of trying to like I keep on hearing, the elusive hunt for the manifestation goal is one that often just becomes, right, the space of working through one's own sense of energetic dissatisfaction, right? Like if you feel dissatisfied, there's nothing you will hold that you won't find dissatisfaction in. Everywhere you go, there you are. The observation of being able to energetically heal does not start from outside the self. It starts from within via the observation of how we feel that we often articulate upon. And this is the difference. Do you feel like this conditionally, or have you felt like this perpetually? Because if you're going through the modality by which another person says this again, right? This is often the extremity by which we understand, oh, well, if everywhere you go, if you find the same thing, who's carrying that? Are you finding it everywhere, or are you bringing it with you, right? And this is why we do the work to heal internally, to be able to help observe externally what is energetically occurring. While for feminine energy, again, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what one you feel most aligned to, the exclusivity, something loving is never energetically exclusive. The modality by which, and I want to describe this, the exclusive is intrusive, because it's the modality by which, especially with this strength card, right? When we articulated that the shape of our trauma is having fear of othering, then there's a tendency of our trauma not to allow others in. But this is what we understand when we're building into sanctuary, which is the modality by which we understand and recognize what feels energetically stabilizing, specifically and particularly as it relates in the joy that is energetically shared. So the modality by which we effectively work through something, right? And I keep on seeing this, like for a lot of the feminine energy, effectively working through those experiences or working through those modalities, right? That ability of working towards a point of energetic stability, I keep on hearing there is strength in awareness, right? And energetic strength in awareness is the modality by which we effectively work towards things, because I keep on getting that for a lot of the energy that's healing from experiences such as those experiences by which they themselves feel, I keep on getting the spaces, and I want to point this out, right? Like this is why, like this is often, and I like to point this out, there's nothing more beautiful than a feminine with a sense of purpose, but never in the context by which a feminine carries a sense of purpose, right? The observation of those that often will try to articulate that their purpose lacks the correct focus, which is the modality by which the feminine often feels, right? Having to navigate others' abandonment wounds in the act of having one, right? Is the observation of understanding that our purpose, when it's energetically aligned, is beneficial, not just to ourselves, but to the world around us. But this is a lot of there's some deep ancestral healing that we see that is occurring for a lot of the feminine energy, which is almost the modality of saying, how dare you have purpose when you're supposed to be taking care of me, which is often the sign of an unhealed inner child energy, right? Because when a child can articulate the need for care, they no longer are in the capacity of requiring to receive it. In the articulation, right? The phenomenon by which another person can articulate the nature of the care that they require is exactly the modality by which another person is showing their own capability of being able to create it for themselves. So this is a lot of the feminine that has to work through those circumstances that often feel energetically frustrating, because as the feminine is building into a sense of purpose, not only are they building into a sense of purpose, but they're dealing with everyone else's abandonment wounds in the process of them healing in that way. Continuing to get clarification, bottom of the deck for non-binary energy, and we'll be utilizing the Smith-Waite Centennial deck. King of Swords in its reversal. And the King of Swords in its reversal has to do with like literally like this is what I meant about like and I'm sorry, this is why I laughed when I saw all these cards in the non-binary unconscious space, because like these are really nice cards. I just gotta say, these are like if you're a tarot reader, these are buoyant cards. These are very buoyant cards, which is the energy that often recognizes, like, they recognize the dread that's just like, oh, it's dread. But versus like, oh, it's dread. Like, it's like versus, I keep on hearing dread. Dread is articulated by a cause, right? Because here's the thing about it, like, especially with the King of Swords, and I like to point this out, this is what trauma does. Shouldn't you be sadder right now? Shouldn't you be more sad that I'm trying to traumatize you? Is what that's what the trauma says. Shouldn't you wipe that smile off your face? Like wipe that smile off of your face when I'm trying to traumatize you. How could you be in here with that? You know? Like that's the funny, and that's the thing about it. Like that's the funny thing about trauma is that when you get to that point, right, and you're like, oh, you're trying to traumatize me, and someone's like, stop laughing, and being like, but it's funny. It's like it's fun. It's like, and the reason it's funny is because it's like it's not only someone trying to traumatize you, but them like literally being upset by the fact that like when you perceive it, like you're just like, oh, okay, like it's just you just kind of move through it. You're just like, okay, it's weird, but all right, fine, because that's often the modality by which, and I want to stress this energy has experienced that on countless occasions and in many different ways, right? And the experience by which another, right? Like I just keep on seeing it's working through the observation of someone being like, and I like to point this out, when we're good with ourselves, being like, yeah, I know, I live here too, right? When we know ourselves, when we know the self, be like, there's nothing in this home that I do not recognize. This is what we talk about with shadow work, right? Shadow work is understanding the mansion of the self. It's knowing who lives there. It's being energetically aware of everything that we're effectively working through. And it's not the fact that there's it's not like everything's perfect there, right? I'll be like, oh yeah, the closet is a real mess. The closet's a real mess. But we're aware of the situation. Like I know. I mean, it's the awareness, like this is what we talk about. Like shadow work is effectively taking that flashlight and shining a light into it, right? And it's that why we talk about the curiosity that we have for ourselves, right? The curiosity is beautiful because when we are obsessed with understanding ourselves, we become each other's blessing. Because what we say is, you are safe here. You are safe here because not only are you safe with me, but I am safe with me. Because how could you be safe with me if I'm not safe with me? And the work that we do to understand ourselves, we become each other's safe houses. We become each other's sanctuaries. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you'd like to book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You can book the reading and pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I'll never DM you. I'll never PM you. I'll never slide into your inbox and tell you I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my site. So I would encourage you to do it there. A couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. First and foremost, Thank you to everyone who attended our class this week on the court cards in the cup suit. Our next class will be held on Thursday, April 16th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be continuing our studies into the tarot with a focus on the court cards in the wand suit. If you'd like to become a part of that tarot class program, all you need to do is head on over to my stack and become a paid subscriber. Your paid subscription to my stack is your ticket of entry into our live classes each and every month. You will also, as a paid subscriber, have access to over 9 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive. Now, it's not necessary to catch up. I'll be doing my best to give you an update on everything we've studied before we start the next class, but the material is there for you to receive as you're ready to receive it. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything we've learned and studied thus far. And if you become a founding member, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you'll also have access to over 20 hours worth of material in the Tarot Church Library class archive, as well as the opportunity of receiving a complimentary mentorship class with me, where I will meet with you personally to assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey and give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize those classes to the best effort moving towards your tarot goals going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. Don't let your lack of experience or your robust experience prevent you from joining us in these classes. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my stack, I would encourage you to follow me there to stay up to date on any new offerings or services. I also post my weekly newsletter there, which will let you know about my in-person events as well as my online live schedule, as well as my mystic meditation articles, which will give you updates on everything we've been seeing energetically in the cards over the lunation cycles. I just wrote one recently on this new moon that we experienced. Finally, I want to let you guys know that on top of my standard life path readings, I also offer mentorship classes. These are for any of my students seeking a more personalized educational experience with me. I take a very limited number of students for this reason, as those classes are focused on each individual's personal spiritual goals and journey work. Those classes can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class series, weekly or bi-weekly, as your schedule permits. Also, for my students seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. That is a package of 4 30-minute readings, again, weekly or bi-weekly, as your schedule permits, so that you can stay more consistent on your personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow. That is our daily collective read. We are going to get